you know, we have a plan that we can all come together, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, you know, Tai Chi Chi Kung, as one mind-body family, because the research shows that the benefits of these things are overlapping, and also the practices, we see that they're overlapping. And really, we should be able to get millions of signatures for this United Nations resolution to advocate mind-body education for public education around the planet. Now, we've written the resolution very carefully, so it wouldn't be mandatory for any country, for any school, for any student. Anytime we've taught in public education, we've always asked the school to have like a study hall or some alternative place where kids could go if they didn't want to participate in the mind-body practice, because anybody who teaches mind-body knows that the first step to a successful mind-body practice is you have to do it because you want to do it. Now, having said that, anytime that we've done it in public schools, it's rare, it's very rare that we get a student that, you know, goes to the study hall or something else. And usually they regret that they did it when they come back, because all the other students are like awestruck, you know, by what they've experienced and what they felt. And so, you know, any student, any school, any country, they could opt out of it. We want to keep it, you know, just as loose and open as possible so that none of these countries will have a problem co-sponsoring it. But we'll use the United Nations as a vehicle to educate educators all over the planet that they can be having students with higher IQs. There's research that shows mind-body practices increase our IQ. They increase our GRA reading score, our verbal fluency, our math proficiency. I mean, really, tell me what kind of educator would look at that and say, oh yeah, we don't want that in our schools. So this isn't a hard sell. The science is all there. And we have the precedent of the United Nations passing the International Day of Yoga for the very same purposes that we want to pass this by a record number of co-sponsoring nations. So we're bypassing the UN bureaucracy. We're going to take these 100,000, I'm hoping millions of signatures from mind-body people all over the planet to every United Nations mission on the planet and asking them to co-sponsor this like they did the International Day of Yoga. This is not pie in the sky stuff, folks. We're talking about global transformation. It's within the palm of our hands. And it's not like it takes a huge amount of effort. You just go to globaltransformationproject.org, you sign the petition, and then you just, you know, on a regular basis, you know, whenever you send out your Tai Chi or Qigong or meditation or yoga or whatever communiques, you just put in there and make sure you sign the globaltransformationproject.org. There's no reason we couldn't have millions of signatories for this. And, you know, and it's just that simple. It's just so doable, you know, and you know, if I was looking at this, hearing me, I might think, oh, that's crazy. You can't do that. Well, that's what we thought when we got the idea of getting Tai Chi and Qigong people all over the planet to do Tai Chi and Qigong together. And now we've reached over 1 billion potential media viewers, and we've gotten, you know, proclamations from government bodies all over the planet. And so if somebody would have told me, you know, that we were actually going to pull that off 20 years ago, I would have doubted it. Except there was a little part of me that just knew that this was true and knew that it could happen and knew that the planet was ready for it. And I think the planet is definitely ready for a positive vision of possibility for the future. And we could offer that together, you know, if we come together as a coalition. And don't look at this as like something Bill and Angela are doing. You know, that's how World Tai Chi Day started, but people got over that real fast. And it just became a collection of visionaries all over the planet. And if this does that, if it inspires people from that very core, from that heart center, and it becomes part of how you communicate to other people, and you don't think of it as something that Bill's doing over in Overland Park, Kansas, and you think, yeah, we can change the planet. This is what I'm doing. You know, it's not what Bill's doing, it's what I'm doing. If everybody starts to look at it that way, it's what I'm doing. We have possibilities. Take 15 seconds, sign the petition. You know, how hard is that to get, you know, ask friends to do? You're not asking them for money. You know, this isn't a hard push, but we have to let go of the blocks, the limitations, because the last couple of years that we went through, man, they're thick. They're thick. And the ability to expand our consciousness to possibility, that's the challenge. And that's this global transformation project. It gives us a chance to get over that in a really big way, you know, and everybody keep doing everything you're doing because it's all very important. I'm not diminishing the importance of anything anybody else is doing. I'm just saying we got a thing we could put on every email and we can encourage people to go sign the petition, just make this a regular habit. And
that's
you know,
a great idea to put it on every email.
You can see Dr. Nelson is was the director of he is the director of the Global Consciousness Project. and studied physics at the University of Rochester, experimental psychology at New York University and Columbia, and he's the author of 75 technical papers and 2 books. And one of them is Connected, which I highly recommend. I have it, and it's brilliant. It explains how all this research evolved that is really, really world changing. And I just wanted to reiterate, you know, that my book opened with that Tesla quote that when science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it'll make more progress in 1 decade than it has in all the previous centuries of history. So Dr. Nelson's work is at the heart of the science that Tesla dubbed the most important science in science's history. And it's really, Roger, it's my great honor to introduce you. And also, again, the book is Connected, The Emergence of Global Consciousness. And Dr. Nelson was the coordinator of research at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory at Princeton University from 1980 to 2002. And again, directed the Global Consciousness Project since its inception in 1997. So thank you so much for being here, Roger.
Thank you very much for inviting me and putting together this amazing panel. And maybe more importantly, putting so much productive energy into trying to re-educate the world. Basically, we need to learn how to get out from under the stress. We need to learn how to work from the heart, to connect with each other, and so forth. And I frankly think there's no better way than to start young. Start with the really youngest people we can reach. And I'm on the team. I really want something like the UN project that you're proposing to go through.
So then the idea of, and I haven't had an idea this clear since World Tai Chi Day came into my mind.
Okay.
Global Transformation Project. Yes. What this is we don't deal with the whole healthcare system issue. What we do is we go to public education. Because when you start looking at the science on the big 5 mind-body practices that all have the big science behind them, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, they all bring the mind into the alpha state, the alpha brainwave state, and that's where the magic happens. And so you have that immune system boosting function. But the way that we get it in schools is we're pushing for a United Nations resolution to call for, to get the science out to public educators all over the planet and recommend mind-body practices become a core part of public education. Yes. Because we have the immune system boosting things, which should fire people up. We should want the whole planet. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people if we can get this into public education. So you're talking about boosting.
Poles apart and the color of time. You're the color of being born. Unless we breathe in each other, there is no garden.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So as you can see, Dr. Nelson was the director of he is the director of the Global Consciousness Project, and studied physics at the University of Rochester, experimental psychology at New York University and Columbia. And he's the author of 75 technical papers and 2 books. And one of them is Connected, which I highly recommend. I have it, and it's brilliant. It explains how all this research evolved that is really, really world changing. And I just wanted to reiterate, that my book opened with that Tesla quote that when science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it'll make more progress in 1 decade than it has in all the previous centuries of history. So Dr. Nelson's work is at the heart of the science that Tesla dubbed the most important science in science's history. And it's really, Roger, it's my great honor to introduce you. And also, again, the book is Connected, The Emergence of Global Consciousness. And Dr. Nelson was the coordinator of research at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory at Princeton University from 1980 to 2002. And again, directed the Global Consciousness Project since its inception in 1997. So thank you so much for being here, Roger.
Thank you very much for inviting me and putting together this amazing panel. And maybe more importantly, putting so much productive energy into trying to re-educate the world. Basically, we need to learn how to get out from under the stress. We need to learn how to work from the heart, to connect with each other, and so forth. And I frankly think there's no better way than to start young. Start with the really youngest people we can reach. And I'm on the team. I really want something like the UN project that you're proposing to go through. It's tough because there's a lot of resistance that we've talked about. Anyway, thanks all of you. And I'd like to also show a few slides. And I believe if I poke the share screen and then turn on the slides, maybe that will work.
Yep, that will work.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
DJ has spoken.
So I didn't realize that we were going to have slides in this panel, but here we are. And I'm titling what I'm talking about today is, it really does look like global consciousness. I'll start from the beginning of my work was in the Pear Lab in the early 1980s, starting in 1980. We were not the first, but we did demonstrate very beautifully and with great scientific rigor that intention can change the output of a random number generator. A lot of people don't know what that is. Basically, what we're talking about is a physical device that uses something like quantum electron noise to create a sequence of completely unpredictable numbers. It's like creating at a very high speed heads and tails as if you were flipping an electronic coin. So we did a lot of work showing that an intention can affect these devices. And then we made them small enough that we could go out into the field and take them to churches and rituals in the woods and all sorts of places like shopping centers. And I guess you can probably imagine that in the churches and in the rituals in the woods, we would see effects. In the shopping centers, not so much. And the difference is that in one case, we have coherent mental activity, coherent groups. In the other case, just random and chaotic mental activity. The group consciousness work led us to think about bigger groups, about mass consciousness. How about if we made a network that looked at data from major events where really large numbers of people would be joining in some kind of probably emotional connection. And this example, Princess Diana's funeral, was thought to be attended in one way or another by something like maybe 1 billion or 2 billion people.
That's a beautiful picture, by the way.
Thank you. That's New Jersey Shore. But so I can go ahead now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You heard what I said about random number generators and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't see this picture, which was the prototype for what became the Global Consciousness Project. I asked people to take data, send it to me, put it all together and made the red trace that you can see. It was unlikely with odds of 1 in 100 or so. And that encouraged us to go ahead and to create a network, which ultimately had about 150 or more people hosting one of the devices, these random number generators, in various places around the world, signified by the little red spots. The most we ever had running about at one time were about 75, but a lot of people participated over the years. Now you've seen this picture already. It's a almost typical kind of result. This is what we call a cumulative deviation plot. It just shows the history of the departures from expectation. We predict that it'll go up. And starting at about 9 or so in London, it really began going up gangbusters, big time. And this sort of confirmation of the hypothesis that we set, which is that when really large numbers of people come together, we'll see some kind of correlated activity in the Global Consciousness Project data. And about 70% of the time, not 50%, as you would expect by chance, but 70% of the time, we got exactly what we were predicting. Now, that may not sound like very much, but in fact, it turns out to be a lot if you compare it with what's expected over a long period of time. So what I should say is that we have a sort of small effect, but if we persist in doing the experiment again and again, small effects add up. We know that from all kinds of aphorisms. Keep at it, be patient, do your work. Eventually, we find an accumulation of experimental outcomes that produces a line like the red one in this picture. You can compare that with a cloud of gray simulations, or you might say controlled data. They're completely different universes. So in other words, we have a real effect. Why does it happen? What does it really mean? We've been in recent times doing a fair amount of completely independent analysis, partly to try to distinguish between the idea that all this is just an experimenter effect. If we choose the right events, or if we choose the right time to start, we'll get these results even though there's nothing happening. That's to me a remarkably unlikely prospect as an explanation. I think it's more like that we have, as Roland was talking about, fields of consciousness. Actually, I'm thinking even more esoteric than electromagnetic fields, something like information fields, the kind of thing that David Bohm used to explain what happens in physics. Anyway, let me just show you very quickly pictures of some of this independent work. Ulf Holmberg, who's an economist from Sweden, decided to see if there would be any correlation of GCP data with the market trends. Being an economist, that was the tools that he had. And he has, in the meantime, done simulations that show that if you use the GCP data, which actually seems to respond several hours, maybe as much as 24 hours early, if you use that data to make your predictions about the stock market, you'll be better off than you would with just a simple passive analysis of the data and making your bets. In other words, in principle, we haven't had an actual practical exploration yet, but I think that will probably happen. In principle, you can make money just by looking at the GCP data compilations.
That should get a lot of attention.
Another friend of mine, of ours, is Dean Radin, and he's been also looking at the data for 23 years worth of data from this project. We've been running the network for a long time. He did something that's called multi-scale entropy calculations. And he did this with the original data from the GCP and with also some controls, pseudo-random data created just by a computer program, and also a scrambled version of the original data. And they're all three plotted in that curve you see. But there's what you can't see unless you enlarge it a lot is that there's a big difference between the black dots, which represent the original data, and two different kind of control things. What this means is that there is a decrease in entropy. Or some people say we increase the entropy, or negative entropy. In other words, the data are changed. They're no longer as random as they were. Their entropy has decreased somewhat. And that's a general thing that we find looking at data all through the network. It isn't isolated only in locations. It isn't isolated in events. Instead, there's a kind of general apparent effect of something, and we think it might be consciousness, human consciousness, coming together, making a little change, a little burst of negentropic influence, and so forth. Too many big words and too little understanding, really. We're working on these things. Something I myself started thinking about was what would happen if I took seriously the idea that we're looking at a global consciousness that has some similarity to a human consciousness. So this picture shows what the brain does if you flash a bright light or maybe make a loud sound. Your brain responds to that. And it has, if you do enough processing, repeat that stimulus many times and sum up over all those times, do some other, smoothing and so forth, you get a picture like this. It's a spike, a high departure or deviation in one direction that's surrounded. Both before and after it, there is another deviation in the way the brain is responding that actually surrounds. This is a very typical course of events for what are called evoked response potentials. So I'm thinking, yeah, might there be something like that in GCP data? So this is a picture of the same data, 4 different versions of it. In the upper left is a cumulative deviation trace. In the upper right is what the data looked like as raw data. And then when we start applying these smoothing and cumulative sum processes, you get something that gets, like in the lower left, begins to look like there may be a pattern of some interest in there. And a little more smoothing. In the lower right, you see a picture that looks ever so much like an evoked potential response. Only this time, it's for events that take hours instead of parts of a second. But the configuration, the shape, the nature of this waveform is so similar, and this shows up in several analyses that I've done. It looks like the global consciousness is responding to a stimulus in a way that's a little bit like the brain responding to a stimulus. Wow. So there's a common factor across a lot of different kinds of structure that we can identify in the Global Consciousness Project data. The common factor is us. It's you and me, our consciousness, responding to events in the world, or sometimes doing things like Tai Chi gatherings where hundreds and thousands of people share in a practice, in a meditation, in a set of emotions. It looks ever so much to me like we're evolving to the destiny that Teilhard de Chardin wrote about. He called it a noosphere, and that's a sheath of intelligence for the earth. I suspect that many would agree we need one, a sheath of intelligence for the earth. Now, where the original GCP raised so many questions that we are in the process with Roland and several people from IONS and other independent folks. We're creating what's called GCP 2.0. You can see an introductory page if you look up gcp2.net, gcp2.net. Anyway, it will be a bigger and maybe better process. We'll not only have a large number of devices, 1,000 of them spread around the world. We're going to be recording things, concurrent things, like social measures, electromagnetic and geomagnetic fluctuation measures, and so on. And thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next, I don't know, I hope it's the next few days to the point where we actually begin to really come together as a global consciousness and noosphere for this planet. Thank you.
Here, here. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. You had, you had mentioned Dr. Radin's work at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and I had talked to him. He helped me through some of the physics that I was trying to understand when I was completing the new second edition of the Gospel of Science. And perhaps maybe we'll be able to have him or somebody from IONS on at some point. But I just wanted to see if you wanted to comment on it. One of the things that your work is showing us that there is a global consciousness. And I remember one thing that you said that was one of the most satisfying parts of your 20 years of research on this was to see that healing, compassion, connection type events seem to more powerfully have an effect than, say, tragedy or horror events did. And I found that very inspiring and hopeful.
I find that inspiring and hopeful too. And I think I actually have a kind of explanation why this would be the case. These emotions that we're talking about, love and compassion, they are connecting emotions. And I think what we're seeing in what Roland McCready and the HMI people are doing, and in the Global Consciousness Project, is something like more and more, not pressure isn't the right word, but a kind of urgency toward connection and understanding it. So if you think about something like compassion, it's not something you generally think of doing yourself. You feel compassion for other people. That connects you to those people, and they are connected to you. And this is the fundamental finding of the Global Consciousness Project, I believe, that we are all connected at an unconscious level. And what we want most to do is to bring that kind of connection up into our awareness, into full consciousness, so that we can actually evolve consciously.
Dr. Nelson, could I interject for a minute and just ask a question? It's Siobhan. Years ago at Georgian Court University, and Jamie's online with us too. I don't know if she remembers this, but Dr. John and Brenda Dunn came to our university and brought a miniature random number generator. Mm-hmm. And as a class, we all focused on it and changed the color. Mm-hmm. And one of the students of Dr. John's and Brenda Dunn's had started a company making these. I think they almost look like a light or a candle. I was wondering, will that be coming back on board, do you think? Because I would love to have one of these for a Tai Chi class or a meditation class, right, Jamie? Or your sound healing, Jamie?
I think you're talking about the Sileron.
Yes, yes.
As far as I know, it's not active. I don't want to say defunct, because it's the people are still alive who built that company.
Maybe that's something we'll ask Jeff Dunn on March the 5th when he joins us.
That's a good plan.
Jeff
will be able to answer that question, but
I could also actually answer it now if you wanted.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff, talk about the alternatives also, please.
Nice to meet you, Jeff, finally.
Yes, indeed.
Please go ahead. You're continuing Robert John's and Brenda Dunn's work from the Pear Institute.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different things that are going on, specifically with respect to the mind lamp, which is the sort of color changing in response. The There aren't any that are in production at the moment, but there's an organization out of England. There's sort of a complex relationship there that's part of ICRL, which we'll talk about more later. We don't need to go into that, but called the Weird Experience. And there's a tech aspect of that called Weirder Tech. And Weird is WYRD. And developing or redeveloping or re-releasing the Mind Lamp. And actually several variants of that Mind Lamp is pretty high up on the priority list. The very top of that list is research devices. But the hope is that those lamps will be available, you know, within something like a year. So that's the hope. Fingers crossed.
I'm first in line, and everybody, Jeff Dunn is a physicist continuing the work of the Princeton Engineering Anomalies research. And we will have you as our guest speaker March the 5th at 4 p.m. I see that we have another hand up. I don't know your name. It says Oxford Humans. And if you could unmute, there you go. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Roger, thank you very much. That was fascinating. Could I ask you just two questions? One was already looked at. The correlation between the love, peace, and encouragement, kind of positive sense, is impact on RNG. But please correct me if I'm wrong, but your data seems to suggest it is not responding not only to positive emotion, but also to negative kind of or shocking emotions, as it was shown in Diana's death. So I'm just wondering whether you could clarify whether it is a kind of a direction of collective emotion or consciousness, or is a quantity of the shock or stimulus which affect the RNG behavior. And the second one is, if it is a quantity, the strength of people's collective emotive reaction, then it looks like it has a little bit of a negative implication for the program which was proposed previously through kind of achieving collective kind of human harmony through Qigong practice. I mean, Qigong, as I heard in this seminar, it calms down. It calms down. It makes you peaceful, calms down. In other words, it reduces the amount of, excitement. Now, whether it is possible to achieve a collective kind of, consciousness through Qigong.
In both of your questions, there's a kind of assumption base that I don't share, and it has to do with excitement versus something like coherence. So you can, the Princess Diana prototype was, as you probably know, something like a week, maybe it was longer than that, after her death. So there was a shock, yes. And but the funeral was not a shocking thing. That was a gathering of people sharing emotions, as I myself suspect, largely of love and compassion. Diana had made her space in the world and in the hearts of many people by being a compassionate person. She was trying to get rid of landmines left over from wars in Africa, for example. So in other words, I think the dominant emotion from these millions or hundreds of millions of people paying attention to Diana's funeral were really more along the lines of compassion and love. And the important thing for the GCP hypothesis is that they were in a state of coherence. And that's what Qigong practices. When you invite as many people as will can hear you to all practice Qigong together. It isn't an exciting thing, as you were saying, but it's a coherence-inducing thing.
It's very calming.
Yeah.
This is just wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful question. We need to move on now. And Bill, you're going to introduce Dr. C.J. Rhodes. And again,
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nelson. I hope we can talk more about this in the future. I know we've got a lot more questions. So Dr. Christine C.J. Rhodes, we all know her as CJ. She's been studying Tai Chi and Qigong for 30 years. And she's the managing director of an umbrella organization with over 30 programs and partners devoted to helping develop health, prosperity, and leadership, HPL, for everyone everywhere, one of which is World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. And she's also a professor of College of Business at Kutztown University, an avid integrative healthcare researcher, a 9-time book author, and has been honored to be named the Tai Chi Chuan Promoter of the Year and admitted to the Hall of Fame by the Fellowship of United Martial Artists, as well as a gold medalist for women's push hands. So with truly a deep bow of gratitude, I introduce CJ Rhodes, another official supporter of the Global Transformation Project's campaign for a UN resolution advocating mind-body education as a core part of public education worldwide. And just an incredible human being, really, CJ. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Bill. As you know, I appreciate everything that you have been doing for 20 years as well. I got to know Bill, of course, with the very first public, World Tai Chi Day, when he put up a website and shared with us, everyone, all these wonderful tools so they could have their own World Tai Chi Day. And a more generous and dedicated person you will not find on this planet. He is just an unbelievable person who is just full of love and kindness and support for everyone in the world. So I will support anything and everything he does. I've been doing Tai Chi for 30 years, as I've said, but I didn't really start doing it seriously until I got hurt in a bad car accident. And so I just did it for fun before that. And, it was fun. Okay, this is great. It did calm me down. It enabled me to stop screeching at my employees because I was a business owner. It also got rid of all my bursitis. I had bursitis in my shoulders, and 3 weeks of a newbie doing just Tai Chi from a video was enabled me to get rid of the bursitis. So there were obvious benefits to it, but I still didn't think of it as a health art. I still thought of it as something fun to do, until I got hurt in my car accident. I had a very, very bad accident. I got mild traumatic brain injury and severe back problems from the car accident. And I went through the medical world, the modern Western medical world, and got to the end of everything they could offer me. And I tried everything, and nothing that they could give me helped. I was on opiates for a year, and that wasn't a good solution. I did the TENS units and the shots, and I could just go down the list of all these things that I tried. What worked was Tai Chi, meditation, Pilates, all the integrative health arts. And so because they worked, I thought to myself, being the scientist that I was, why do these work? Why is it that if I do these things, my pain levels go down? And if I don't do those things, my pain levels go up. If I don't eat right, my pain levels go up. If I don't exercise, my pain levels go up. If I don't do Qigong, my pain levels go up. If I don't do Pilates, my pain levels go up. So, it's a matter of pain levels going up and down based on what I'm doing. And I can tell you for a fact that doing all of these arts, Tai Chi, Qigong, and Pilates, and meditation, and all those things, and eating right, getting massages, they all really do change the way my body works. And so I started doing research on it. And now I've published quite a few papers on this. Let me see what, a couple of the papers that I published with a friend of mine, and I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be putting these in chat as we're going through them one at a time so you can see them. The first one, well, the first two really are papers that we wrote on the impact of Tai Chi on cancer care. My friend that I worked on with these papers has cancer. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The first one I posted is the National Qigong Association Know the Evidence paper, where we basically took everything in PubMed that had to do with Tai Chi and Qigong, and then we put them in categories as to what they helped. You know, Tai Chi and Qigong helps, aging issues. It helps cancer. It helps with diabetes. It helps this, that, and the other. You can see that all the different categories that it helps. We did basically listed them all. Now, the one that I posted is only the most recent one. We just did that one. And when I say we, I'm talking about the National Qigong Association Research and Education Committee. We're the ones that worked on that paper. And it's the fourth in a series. So it's just the most recent. If you go back in time, back when we did the first one, which I think was in 2015, there you can see the gamut of first of all, you can see how many more research papers there are these days than they were back then, and how many more activities or how many more modalities Tai Chi and Qigong has helped. So we basically have a lot of research that says this is the right direction. These kinds of things really are helping. What we don't have is we don't have enough definitive research. You'll notice this is called Know the Evidence. And a lot of those papers that we're talking about there didn't have the kind of random control studies, random controls that they needed. They didn't have the kind of anti-bias put in place in order to ensure, for example, that the study was done blindly. And that is the people who were being tested weren't aware of whether or not they were in the experimental group that was getting the Tai Chi or Qigong, or in the control group that wasn't getting the Tai Chi or Qigong. Now, you may say to me, well, you can't really do that. And a lot of researchers say that, well, you can't have a double-blind study with something like behavioral, like Tai Chi or Qigong. And I answer, yes, you can. And we wrote the Asclepios, which is a research group that I worked with. We wrote up an agenda that talks about exactly how you can do that. How do you do a research study that is unbiased, that has a random control trial, that can be blinded on both sides, that can prove with beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's Tai Chi and Qigong that's doing the impact, and not just the fact that they like the teacher, or that it was they were all excited because they were in that group. And that we need more of that rigorous kind of research in order to make it work. But in the meantime, we've got a whole lot of observational studies and studies that aren't quite as rigorous, but still have very, very good controls involved. And then we've got the second one was the systematic review, which that does only look at the ones that have that kind of control. So that's the second one. And again, why anyone who has had cancer, as they are recovering from all of the horrible things that people had to do to their bodies in order to get rid of the cancer, if they're not doing Tai Chi and Qigong, that just doesn't make any sense at all, because that's the thing that can help them recover better and enable them to stay out of get themselves into the kinds of situations that enabled that cancer to grow to begin with. So eating nutritiously and doing exercising and doing Tai Chi and Qigong or other integrative health arts, it's just essential. So anyone who doesn't do those things, just it doesn't make any sense that they don't. And then we've got another study that we did, and this one I'm putting up because it fits right into the Global Transformation Project. This was a study that we did where I have a lot of students, and what I did was I put them in 3 random groups, and this was a blind. They didn't know which one they were in or anything. So it was double blinded. They didn't know what I was studying. They just knew that they were in one of these groups. And one group I had do exercise 15 minutes before every test. Another one I had study 15 before a test. And then the third group did Qigong meditation for 15 minutes before a test. And this was a lot of students over many semesters, so it's not just one group. And then I matched them on, you know, their house, whether they were smart or not, and, you know, matched them on previous test results. And I did all the technical things that you got to do to make sure you have an unbiased sample. And indeed, still, it was the Qigong group did best. And that's where this, going back to the enabling of the body's system to enhance the performance of the brain based upon Qigong meditation. I actually believe it works with any kind of meditation, but the meditation part is the key. It's, you really got to change your brain chemistry. And so you change your brain chemistry, that changes your body chemistry, that enables your brain to perform better. And so that's yet another study that I did. And then the next one was, I'm going to put the next together. They were things that I presented at the International Congress for Integrative Medicine and Health in Baltimore in 2019, I think. And again, what I did was I have pain. I have severe pain for years and years. I had severe pain. And I control it through all these activities that I do. So I wanted to take a look at all kinds of pain, not just my kinds of pain, and all the different possible things that you can do. And then I rank ordered them on cost and side effects, and on how difficult they were to do or how easy they were to do, etc. And then I rank ordered all of the pain relieving things so that we could know whether or not it was cost effective to work on integrative health as opposed to non-integrative health, the pain medicines and surgeries, because, you know, are they cost effective? And it turned out, of course, as one can probably guess, that the integrative health care practices were much more cost effective than surgeries and medication for eliminating pain. And so that was yet another thing. And I guess maybe I missed one. Somehow I missed one, or maybe I did post it, but it was the study on, oh, I know, I posted this other one and I forgot to do the know the evidence. Here's the know the evidence one. The first one that I posted that I thought was know the evidence was probably the underlying mechanisms, pain relieving mechanisms of Tai Chi and Qigong. It's one of the first articles that I wrote on exactly why does Tai Chi and Qigong relieve pain. And so it's just a kind of a hypothetical, well, you know, what is it that makes this thing work? And so I am actually out of time, I believe. So we don't have time for questions, but I would like to hand it over. And now I got to see who I'm handing it over to Siobhan, who is going to introduce the man of the hour, the birthday boy, Bill. So Siobhan, you want to go ahead and
thank you, CJ. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. We will have a couple minutes at the end for people to come in and ask you questions. And I hope Angela is with Bill, because we are all here today because of this very, I'm going to say, powerful, compassionate, loving couple. We're all here today because of Bill and Angela Douglas's lifetime work of making the world a better place. So is Angela with us, Bill?
Yeah, I'm right here, Siobhan. Thanks
Can
for
we
the introduction.
CJ, could you help me spotlight Bill and Angela? And so thank you so much for, I know Angela's a little, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, a little shy, but it's lovely to see you, Angela. And Angela has spent much of her life with Bill, creating programs to build a global family, not just of Tai Chi and Qigong enthusiasts, but of all mindfulness practices throughout the world. And education's a big part of it. And Angela, actually, I believe you've learned a lot of the different styles that you do from your mother. Is that not correct, Angela?
Actually, I watched my mother learn Tai Chi from her master as a kid. And she was playing with the Chen style. And then when we moved to California in our early 20s, Bill wanted to learn Tai Chi, and I, accompanied him. And so we learned the Yang style together. And since then, I had learned the Mulan style. So that's my history of Tai Chi. And now I help Bill teaches Tai Chi classes.
And you do the fan and sword style as well.
I did at one point.
Yes. And Angela, you are also the co-author of, let me pick these up, of the Gospel of Science. And I have both editions, and these are really packed full of information, believe me. It's fun to read. It's not difficult to read, but this book, rather, the Gospel of Science, has a lot of the research as well as personal stories of how effective mindfulness practices can be, not just of Tai Chi and Qigong, but also of meditation and other forms of mindfulness practices. And I'm so glad that Sharon had brought up dance as well, because there's so many different ways to access mindfulness. So you've helped not only write that book, but a number of articles and other books with Bill on Tai Chi and Qigong. And he's written some novels too.
Yes, Bill is very creative, and he's also into a lot of researches, really dedicated into the Chinese culture and Tai Chi and Qigong. It took him an accumulation of 20 years of data that he goes through to create this Gospel of Science, and he has updated it to the second edition. Now, I don't want to take up too much of the time. Like you said, I'm very shy, and initially I do not want to talk at all. I'm the yin energy of me and Bill's relationship, and he is definitely the yang. I felt like I wanted to share a little bit, because the Global Transformation Project reminded me 24 years ago when we first started World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, when this vision comes into Bill's mind that he thinks that, the world need to be exposed to Tai Chi and Qigong, this treasure that China have over the thousands of years. And we wanted the world to know about the benefits of Tai Chi. And also we were just feeling and thinking that, you know, why not we could connect our chi globally, you know? So we decided to have one day, everybody doing Tai Chi and Qigong to bring about the calmness and the peace to the world. And for the first, you know, several years, it's definitely a challenging endeavor for me and Bill, because we were just a no-name Tai Chi teacher, you know, and why would anybody take our words for it? And we, because of our persistence, that we believe that we could link the world today with our energy. And it has proven by Dr. Nelson and Dr. McCready that it works. And so because of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, and now we want to propose a global transformation project, which we believe that is another vision that we all could work towards it. Just like every one of you helped build World Tai Chi and Qigong Day to be a world celebration. And as parents and as grandparents, we want our grandchildren to be exposed to Tai Chi from a very young age through 12th grade. And the possibility that you all have shared during this program of the benefits, how when we transform ourselves, it will be benefit throughout the world and throughout time. That cannot be taken away from us. And so I wanted everybody that is like-minded who's participating in this Zoom meeting to pick up their pen, sign the Global Transformation Project, and make yourself part of it. And you will see that you change the world, and hopefully real soon.
Oh, thank you, Angela. And you both started the World, Bill, come back on. You both started the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day in 1998, and it started as a small local practice and became a worldwide event that's celebrated in over 80 nations now. Mm-hmm. And so thank you both. We are so grateful for all the seeds that you have planted. And this is one of the reasons you have a group behind you that is supporting you, and hopefully we'll get more people to sign the petition to the UN. And I thank you both so much. I am going to disappear and have Bill and Angela speak.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Angela. That was beautiful, eloquent, beyond what I could extol to people about the possibilities of the Global Transformation Project. One thing that I wanted to discuss, because during the course of this, we've discussed some of the challenges of mind-body in healthcare and education. And those challenges exist. There are institutional issues that cause it to be very difficult to make massive changes with mind-body practices, getting the recognition and the value and the support in institutions that they need to. But one thing for everybody to keep in mind, this isn't a pipe dream. We've thought this out very carefully as we've collected the science and realized that this stuff should have been part of public education many years ago. And one of the things that we found is there's a precedent for this United Nations resolution that we're advocating, that we're campaigning for to get mind-body education into public education worldwide. And you've heard, as Angela said, from all the science that we've seen, that this would be transformative to the planet. I believe it was 2015, the United Nations General Assembly voted to create the International Day of Yoga. Now, what's historically significant about that is that it was co-sponsored by a historically high number of nations. I don't think any resolution had had that many co-sponsors. There was 177 countries around the world that voted to create the International Day of Yoga. And it was for the same reasons for the Global Transformation Project, that it would increase global health and global harmony. And so we're actually citing that resolution in our resolution for the Global Consciousness Transformation Project to get mind-body into public education around the planet. And so, so there's a precedent for this. This can be done. And so, yes, I know United Nations institutions, the bureaucratic institutions are an issue, just like the NIH is an issue, and all these challenges that we have with healthcare and in the UN. But the International Day of Yoga was voted in, again, by a historic number of nations, 177 nations. So what we're going to do is we have a petition that Angela referred to at globaltransformationproject.org. And you go there and you take just 15 seconds to sign the petition. And then your name gets added, and then take some time to start sending this out. Just make it a regular habit to get this out in your social media and in your emails and your contacts and your newsletters, your organizations. And when we get to 100,000 signatories on this petition, then that's when we're going to start approaching United Nations missions all over the world. And Angela and I are great organizers. World Tai Chi and Qigong Day has been officially proclaimed by government bodies all over the planet. The National Congress of Brazil held a moment of silence to commemorate World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. 22 US governors have proclaimed World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. The Senates of New York, California, many Senates and state houses throughout the United States and in different countries, health ministries, even the president of Croatia proclaimed it. And so this can be done. And we're willing to take on the work of collecting these signatures and getting, and we built the website. We have all the science. If you go to globaltransformationproject.org, you can start sharing this with people. Because another thing is that we realized it's very, as we were completing the book, we came across research that showed, and it was a 20-year study. It was thousands of people. And what they found was that the greatest indicator of people's future health and well-being was their vision of their future health and well-being. And as several of the speakers have cited, and I think we all know it, the state of consciousness of the planet is in a very fearful state. We've all been through a lot of stuff in the last couple of years. And so that has to change, because when you look at this science, if you read the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, what I always tell people, you will walk away from that book with an incredibly expanded vision of possibility, hopeful possibility, science-based possibility for the future of us, the future of our planet, and the future for our children and our grandchildren. And so this is doable. We're willing to take on the work of reaching out to all these UN missions around the planet. What we need everybody else to do is sign on at globaltransformationproject.org, sign the petition, start sharing that website. There's no reason why we can't create a global coalition of mind-body organizations and teachers and enthusiasts, and also scientists and educators who get this. And what the science shows, see, we're working on two tracks here, because what we've talked about today is how, if we, boosted the number of, mind-body practitioners and meditators in the planet by, say 100 billion people, if we, when we get this UN resolution through, because we'll use the UN as a vehicle to support the teachers and the schools that are interested in this, but also to educate the schools and the teachers and the systems that aren't aware of it. And then we got 100 million new mind-body practitioners. And we know from the science we've been talking about, this would have a transformative effect on the planet. Okay, so now how do we justify getting into public education? In the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, and also at the globaltransformationproject.org, we list some of the science that's in the book with the link, so you can see where the science came from. And what you find is that when kids practice these things, it increases their test scores. It reduces attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. It increases their GRE reading scores, their math proficiency skills, their verbal fluency skills. I always have problems saying verbal fluency, but just think about this. What rational teacher on this planet would look at that data and go, oh no, we don't want any of that in our school. No, there's going to be tons of teachers and principals and school districts that when they see this science, they're going to want it in their schools. And there's going to be nations that we're going to be contacting that are going to want it in their schools, just like the 177 nations that wanted an International Day of Yoga for the very same reasons. So this is not pie in the sky. And Angela pointed out to you that when we first started thinking of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, you know, I mean, it was really hard getting people on board. You know, they thought, who are these people? What is this? But this can be done. We've proven that we can have an impact on the global psyche and also on government bodies around the planet. We have a track record of that. And we know that there's a vast majority of nations in the world that are hungry for positive, healthful changes through the International Day of Yoga resolution. And again, we cite that in our resolution. And so this isn't pie in the sky stuff, folks. This is a time of humanity when a positive vision is more important than maybe at any critical point in the history of this planet. And we've got a roadmap to do it. When Dr. Rhodes first read the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, she was at a week-long Catholic retreat, and she read it while she was on retreat. And she contacted me and she said, Bill, she said, this is a pathway to the future. And I agree. I can't think of any singular thing that we could do as a global mind-body community than to get this resolution, to get, I mean, really, we should have more than 100,000 signatures for this. We should have tens, or if not hundreds of millions of signatures, because there's more than that people around the planet who have benefited from this stuff. And we all need to pay it forward, and we can pay it forward to every future generation in the history of this planet.
And you're absolutely right. I was bowled over by the book that I read on retreat, and it was a retreat that I was taking right after taking a previous retreat that was about Teilhard de Chardin, which one of our previous people also talked about, the noosphere and his whole concept. And you know, he was, for many years, he was not accepted by the Catholic Church. He was a Jesuit, but they now accept what he did and how science and religion are one. They're not two different things. They're really the same thing. You just got to look at it differently. Anyway, I'm hoping that we're going to get a chance for some questions, Bill.
Well, one thing I'd just like to mention, CJ, real quick, is you mentioned Teilhard Chardin. And I quote him a couple of times in the book. And one of the quotes that I quote is that when humanity begins to harness the power of love, it will, for the second time in history, have discovered fire. And what all this mind-body research shows, what all this science shows, is that these practices increase the empathy and compassion parts of the brain physically. We're not just talking about, you know, cognitively, but I mean physically, and it shrinks the stress and fear parts of the brain physically. And so what we're talking about, you know, by introducing 100 million new meditators around the planet, and I'm talking, when I say Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, we're talking about changing this noosphere that Chardin was talking about. And for the second time in human history, you know, discovering fire. And yeah. Yeah,
that's what we're hoping. Yeah, we have some questions. So
Sharon wanted to ask something.
Well, I just wanted to say that we made a film, 2012, The Odyssey, in 2006. And that quote, Jose Arguelles and Jean Houston were speaking about the work of Teilhard de Chardin. And the quote you gave is part of the film. Wow. So we're really in resonance here.
Yeah. Now, Sharon, can you think of any singular action we could take as a global mind-body community that would more profoundly change this planet than to get public schools all over the planet through a UN resolution to advocate mind-body process? No, I mean, no, but I'm seriously, could you think of one singular action that the global mind-body community could take that would more rapidly expand this throughout the planetary population?
I think, you know, because I'm so involved with music and stuff, music is always, when you think of like We Are the World, when you think of all of these, you know, musical events that really everybody was watching and they all brought together and got the message. Mm-hmm. This, you know, how do you reach people that aren't interested in this? Well, music works.
It does.
Well, yeah,
It
but
does.
but what you find, and you talked about, just a moment, just a moment. You talked about this earlier, Sharon. You said that kids resonate with this. Now you're saying, okay, when they get to adults, a lot of them aren't interested, and that's true. But kids, and I found this, I've been teaching in public schools, for 20, 30 years now. If you get them young, they're open and they're interested. So tell me if you can think of some singular action, the global mind-body communication. We're not talking about people dedicating their lives to this. We're talking about them getting everybody that they know to take 15 seconds and sign this petition. Can you think of any singular action the global mind-body community could do to come together? And I'm not saying don't do everything else you're doing. Do everything you're doing. But what about this one thing?
We have Roger Nelson.
Go ahead.
A dear friend of mine who is now passed, for many, many years, said what we need is educational musical comedy. And I think Sharon put her finger right on it.
That's what we were doing.
There's enough talent already in this small group, and we know other people, to put together an educational musical comedy.
I have the musicians.
It sounds like a great idea. We have one more question two more. We're going to take two more questions, one from Mary Jo and one from Oxford. So Oxford, do you want to go ahead and ask? Oh, Mary Jo.
I have Mary Jo on first, please.
Okay, go ahead, Mary Jo.
Hey, Mary Jo.
Mine's in response to how to work with children, and what Bill was saying, maybe something we can do to help inspire them, because they're going to be the leaders of the world. And one of the things I just started, I'm going to show you this, Heart Families Together. This was just put together about 2 weeks ago, and it's filled with inspiration that a 12-year-old and 16-year-old came up with different sayings. So it's a card deck. And, inside this is, well, you can't, I'll read what the card is. This is on the other side of it, says, choose from your heart. You'll make the right choices for your life. And then another card said, use the wisdom you receive from a higher source. So it's taking like all of the things we have heard and how to mobilize children. They could have these in a classroom, for example, and the theoretical pieces behind all of it that you would share with the teachers to help motivate them can be an additional tool. This is like one idea that came from the children. Well, it's grandma and the children who did it together, and coming up with ways how to inspire them and get them unified. Now, all the things that we've been talking about here is the theory behind why these things work and why we're doing it. But as we need to move them in the mediums that they use, how they hang out, what they do, how they interact with their colleagues, and using their watching what they're doing in ways how to bring forward what comes to them, and teaching them that's an okay way to make decisions.
Mary Jo.
For everyone else, if you don't know, that Mary Jo has a new project, or I guess it's been around for a while, Global Healing Alliance. So I'm sure we will hear a lot more from Mary Jo in the near future.
Mary Jo,
before you had a question.
Before you go on, Mary Jo, I just wanted to mention something. As you were talking, one of the things that occurred to me is that when we're working with very young children, their hearts are wide open. And so when I work with adults, because I work mostly with adults through the hospital programs and everything, but we're trying to get adults to really kind of let go of a lot of the crap that they've accumulated, consciously and around their heart, so that they can reopen to that heart consciousness, that heart-mind connection consciousness that is very natural to us when we're children. And so the children are very natural at it. So if we get mind-body into public education starting at kindergarten, what we won't be really getting kids to open up to heart mind consciousness. What we'll be doing is to give them tools so that they don't lose it, because that's what happens.
Well, that's true.
That's what happens.
But related to the point you just made, Bill, I've taken these card sets to the senior residents, and most of them are in their 60s up to 90, and have shared it with them. And I say, draw a card. The kids wrote these. What do you think? And they have responded, and it's helped them to unify with their family units and bringing that collective thing together. Because one of the things that is missing, children have lost some of their interaction with people because they're so tied into their phone and doing this rather than engagement with people.
Yeah, and this would help with all that.
We're already 3 minutes over, and I think it would be unfair to not let Oxford ask his question real quick. So if you could do it in 10, 15 seconds, Oxford, and if you could answer in 10, 15 seconds, Bill, I'd really appreciate it. So any chance?
Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't introduce my name. My name is Young Hechi, based in Oxford, running an organization called Oxford Humans. Sorry about that. My question to William or to anybody involved in Qigong: does practicing Qigong affect the fear of death? In other words, does it help to alleviate the fear of death?
From my practice in hospitals, because I'm dealing with a lot of people that are dealing with mortal issues, and what I find is that the more they get in touch with, this inner connection, this inner mind-heart connection, really what it is getting in touch with our connection to the universe, because we have to let go of our singularity in order to go into that state. And Tai Chi and Qigong promote that in that flow state, that flow meditative state. And the more they get in touch with that, that central part of our being, which is ultimately connection with the universe, it really takes away a lot of that fear, because they don't feel like they're a singular entity that is just going to disappear like a puff of smoke. They feel like they're part of something larger and more eternal.
I'm going to jump in real quick. My grandmother was transitioning at 100, and I did a practice in her room, and the whole energy changed, and the nurses were asking me what was going on, and my grandmother passed very peacefully. So it can have profound effects. CJ, do you want to play something? You're sharing your screen. I think
yes, I'm trying, but something happened. Hold on, let me fix this.
Hold your breath.
Well, while you're doing that, I did a presentation for the National Catholic Hospice workers, and so this is a big part of what we were talking about, was the benefit of mind-body practices, for people that are transitioning. And, you just start to realize that, you're walking through a door. You're not walking into a brick wall. You're not walking into the end of everything.
I put in chat about our donations. If you can donate to help our project.
Okay, but before we do that, we just have a couple commercials that we wanted to go through. Our very own Siobhan is going to be doing a complimentary consultation for anyone who is here, and you just contact her. You go to her website, and she will be happy to provide you with a complimentary consultation. So please contact her about that. We also encourage you all to get the Emergence of Global Consciousness book by Roger Nelson. I also need to know about the International Medical Tai Chi and Qigong Association Conference, which is going to be held in Kansas City, which is where Bill Douglas lives. So he is going to have this big event on that, and so I invite all of you to present, put in a proposal to present something, because we're just now we just sent out the call for presentations. Deadline's July 1st, and this year we are encouraging both academics who need to have all the research and the affiliations and all that stuff, as well as practitioners who just have experience with Tai Chi and its benefits on people, and how Tai Chi and Qigong can help people. We're encouraging both both levels of presentation. So please do submit a proposal. That's going to be, it's going to be in person, but I'm hoping to have some kind of hybrid as well. So that will be next year on October 20th to 21st.
I just like to interject before CJ, before you go on. The University of Kansas Medical Center, we teach through their Turning Point program. If you Google Turning Point Kansas City, and so the University of Kansas Medical Center, they have an incredibly sophisticated mind-body program that they make sure all their patients are aware of. And people all over the planet can, if anybody that has a chronic health condition can Google Turning Point Kansas City, and they can sign up and they can get in on our 3 days a week Zoom classes. And those are all free. And so I'm glad that the University of Kansas Health System is doing that.
And then, of course, we've also got the Gospel of Science, the book that we're all here that started kind of as
you want to get the new second edition, new second edition Gospel of Science.
Make sure you get the new second edition. And I'll put these links in the chat shortly. Angela also reminds us that you can purchase a World Tai Chi Day turkey to support our efforts.
T-shirt.
Efforts of T-shirt.
Oh, she misread that.
I'm like, well, turkey? I never heard that. She meant T-shirt. It was, autocorrect. So buy it. And it has, and the T-shirts,
and the T-shirts have one world, one breath in 41 different languages.
Yes, I'm wearing it now, so you can see that, and then
we can't see you.
Oh, you're right. You can't see me. Oh well. Anyway, we had so much fun putting this together, and thought that it was just such a wonderful idea, and got such a great response from people signing up for it that Bill Douglas has decided to make this a monthly panel. So we're going to have monthly speakers and panels. The next one's going to be March 5th. And that one is going to be with Jeff Dunn. He's going to, as you can see, he actually talked a little bit today, but he's going to be talking anymore. If you are interested in doing a future one, please contact Bill Douglas and Siobhan. They will be happy to talk to you about that. I think we're having Keith Sharp is going to be at one of the ones in the future. And I think any one of the speakers we had today could definitely use a lot more time. So we may be able to do that. Also, again, as Bill has said, please sign the petition. If you haven't done that already, you can go to Global Transformation Project for that. And one of the most important things is, of course, we need you to give if you haven't done so. I've been seeing it, and many people have been giving throughout. But in order to make sure these things continue on, we got to make sure that we get enough to cover the costs of this sort of thing. Now, before we leave, before Bill gives us his final closing remarks, we are going to have a little happy birthday. So let me hear that.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Happy birthday, Bill.
I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, guys.
Happy birthday,
Bill.
Happy
Well,
birthday
I did
to
use
UK.
I did use my birthday to try to guilt everybody into making sure they showed up for this, but this is quite a surprise. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Personal New Year.
Blessings on you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful, happy, joyous, chi-filled birthday.
Thank you, Sharon.
TJ, did you find that video?
Yes, I did. Okay, so now let me put some of these put some of these links while Bill does the closing words. So I'm sure he's going to hang out afterward to talk to people if you want to. But in interest of making sure that people aren't kept too late, we're already 7 minutes over. But in case people made other arrangements and they had to leave, so go ahead and Bill.
Let me shorten the closing comments because I've gone over a lot of this, but I just want to reiterate, we have a plan that we can all come together, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, Tai Chi Chi Kung, as one mind-body family, because the research shows that the benefits of these things are overlapping, and also the practices, we see that they're overlapping. And really, we should be able to get millions of signatures for this United Nations resolution to advocate mind-body education for public education around the planet. Now, we've written the resolution very carefully, so it wouldn't be mandatory for any country, for any school, for any student. Anytime we've taught in public education, we've always asked the school to have like a study hall or some alternative place where kids could go if they didn't want to participate in the mind-body practice, because anybody who teaches mind-body knows that the first step to a successful mind-body practice is you have to do it because you want to do it. Now, having said that, anytime that we've done it in public schools, it's rare, it's very rare that we get a student that, you know, goes to the study hall or something else. And usually they regret that they did it when they come back, because all the other students are like awestruck, you know, by what they've experienced and what they felt. And so, you know, any student, any school, any country, they could opt out of it. We want to keep it, you know, just as loose and open as possible so that none of these countries will have a problem co-sponsoring it. But we'll use the United Nations as a vehicle to educate educators all over the planet that they can be having students with higher IQs. There's research that shows mind-body practices increase our IQ. They increase our GRE reading score, our verbal fluency, our math proficiency. I mean, really, tell me what kind of educator would look at that and say, oh yeah, we don't want that in our schools. So this isn't a hard sell. The science is all there. And we have the precedent of the United Nations passing the International Day of Yoga for the very same purposes that we want to pass this by a record number of co-sponsoring nations. So we're bypassing the UN bureaucracy. We're going to take these 100,000, I'm hoping millions of signatures from mind-body people all over the planet to every United Nations mission on the planet and asking them to co-sponsor this like they did the International Day of Yoga. This is not pie in the sky stuff, folks. We're talking about global transformation. It's within the palm of our hands. And it's not like it takes a huge amount of effort. You just go to globaltransformationproject.org, you sign the petition, and then you just, you know, on a regular basis, you know, whenever you send out your Tai Chi or Qigong or meditation or yoga or whatever communicates, you just put in there, make sure you sign the globaltransformationproject.org. There's no reason we couldn't have millions of signatories for this. And, you know, and it's just that simple. It's just so doable, you know, and you know, if I was looking at this, hearing me, I might think, oh, that's crazy. You can't do that. Well, that's what we thought when we got the idea of getting Tai Chi and Qigong people all over the planet to do Tai Chi and Qigong together. And now we've reached over 1 billion potential media viewers, and we've gotten, you know, proclamations from government bodies all over the planet. And so if somebody would have told me, you know, that we were actually going to pull that off 20 years ago, I would have doubted it. Except there was a little part of me that just knew that this was true and knew that it could happen and knew that the planet was ready for it. And I think the planet is definitely ready for a positive vision of possibility for the future. And we could offer that together, you know, if we come together as a coalition. And don't look at this as like something Bill and Angela are doing. You know, that's how World Tai Chi Day started, but people got over that real fast. And it just became a collection of visionaries all over the planet. And if this does that, if it inspires people from that very core, from that heart center, and it becomes part of how you communicate to other people, and you don't think of it as something that Bill's doing over in Overland Park, Kansas, and you think, yeah, we can change the planet. This is what I'm doing. You know, it's not what Bill's doing, it's what I'm doing. If everybody starts to look at it that way, it's what I'm doing. We have possibilities. Take 15 seconds, sign the petition. You know, how hard is that to get, you know, ask friends to do? You're not asking them for money. You know, this isn't a hard push, but we have to let go of the blocks, the limitations, because the last couple of years that we went through, man, they're thick. They're thick. And the ability to expand our consciousness to possibility, that's the challenge. And that's this global transformation project. It gives us a chance to get over that in a really big way, you know, and everybody keep doing everything you're doing because it's all very important. I'm not diminishing the importance of anything anybody else is doing. I'm just saying we got a thing we could put on every email, and we can encourage people to go sign the petition, just make this a regular habit. And
that's
you know,
a great idea to put it on every email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Siobhan.
Bill, thank you so much. I think everybody should you know, say thank you so much to Bill and happy birthday, and go to World Tai Chi Day. I'm putting it in again, day.org. I'm putting that again into the chat. And I did put it in the chat just in case you don't know, if you want to save the chat so you get a text file with all those lists, with all those links in it, you just click on the little 3 dots and you choose Save Chat, and it will go into your My Documents folder under a folder called Zoom, under a folder with today's date. So that's where it puts the chat. If you don't know where it is.
And go to globaltransformationproject.org too. You can sign the petition directly right there.
Yeah, we'll put that up there too.
You wouldn't happen to have a T-shirt handy to show everybody?
Oh, World Tai Chi Day T-shirt? Yeah, I don't. Normally I'm wearing it.
I have mine on now.
Oh, yeah, show us, CJ.
Yeah, CJ. Although that's an old version.
Now let me turn off my. Let me turn off my my
background. And Angela, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, Angela.
Well, I want to thank everybody, our panel, exquisite panel, and Javon and CJ, the hard work that put it together. And we really appreciate everybody.
And we also want to thank all the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day participants and organizers around the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think we would have had the courage to do this if they hadn't shown, that we can come together as a planetary mind-body community. I don't think we would have been able to do this. Oh, CJ's got the T-shirt on there. One world, one breath, 41 languages. Now the artwork is updated. The artwork is actually even more beautiful than that artwork. And
well, this year's color of the T-shirt is antique royal, and the logo is like a seafoam blue.
Yeah, kind of a, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Nice.
Okay, so I think we're done. Again, you can hang out and ask Bill some questions if you want, but I'm going to stop the recording, and I want to thank everyone for coming. You've all been wonderful. And when the recordings are available, because Bill promised that he was going to edit these recordings to make them available. You may not remember that you promised that, Bill, but you did.
I will.
And then when they become available, we'll let you know.
Thank you, CJ, for all the technical work and all the hard work.
Yes, thank you.
We have a plan that we can all come together, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, Tai Chi Qigong, as one mind-body family, because the research shows that the benefits of these things are overlapping, and also the practices, we see that they're overlapping. And really, we should be able to get millions of signatures for this United Nations resolution to advocate mind-body education for public education around the planet. Now, we've written the resolution very carefully, so it wouldn't be mandatory for any country, for any school, for any student. Anytime we've taught in public education, we've always asked the school to have like a study hall or some alternative place where kids could go if they didn't want to participate in the mind-body practice, because anybody who teaches mind-body knows that the first step to a successful mind-body practice is you have to do it because you want to do it. Now, having said that, anytime that we've done it in public schools, it's rare. It's very rare that we get a student that goes to the study hall or something else, and usually they regret that they did it when they come back, because all the other students are like awestruck, by what they've experienced and what they felt. And so any student, any school, any country, they could opt out of it. We want to keep it, just as loose and open as possible, so that none of these countries will have a problem co-sponsoring it. But we'll use the United Nations as a vehicle to educate educators all over the planet that they can be having students with higher IQs. There's research that shows mind-body practices increase our IQ. They increase our GRA reading score, our verbal fluency, our math proficiency. I mean, really, tell me, what kind of educator would look at that and say, oh yeah, we don't want that in our schools? So this isn't a hard sell. The science is all there. And we have the precedent of the United Nations passing the International Day of Yoga for the very same purposes that we want to pass this, by a record number of co-sponsoring nations. So we're bypassing the UN bureaucracy. We're going to take these 100,000, I'm hoping millions of signatures from mind-body people all over the planet to every United Nations mission on the planet, and asking them to co-sponsor this like they did the International Day of Yoga. This is not pie in the sky stuff, folks. We're talking about global transformation. It's within the palm of our hands. And it's not like it takes a huge amount of effort. You just go to globaltransformationproject.org, you sign the petition, and then you just, on a regular basis, whenever you send out your Tai Chi or Qigong or meditation or yoga or whatever communiques, you just put in there, make sure you sign the globaltransformationproject.org. There's no reason we couldn't have millions of signatories for this. And, and it's just that simple. It's just so doable, and if I was looking at this, hearing me, I might think, oh, that's crazy, you can't do that. Well, that's what we thought when we got the idea of getting Tai Chi and Qigong people all over the planet to do Tai Chi and Qigong together. And now we've reached over 1 billion potential media viewers, and we've gotten, proclamations from government bodies all over the planet. And so if somebody would have told me, that we were actually going to pull that off 20 years ago, I would have doubted it. Except there was a little part of me that just knew that this was true and knew that it could happen and knew that the planet was ready for it. And I think the planet is definitely ready for a positive vision of possibility for the future. And we could offer that together. If we come together as a coalition.
C'est pourquoi les plantes grandissent et se moquent de nos yeux.